My parents dragged me to court over the only thing I've ever owned, a 2024 Clayton I bought with burned hands. Hi, I'm Mason Hale, 31, and 6 months ago, my own parents took me to court to try and steal my damn house. I bought a brand new 2024 Clayton double-wide with $152,000 scraped together after 10 brutal years welding pipe across the Bakken. Days that started before sunup, nights that ended with my back locked up so tight I had to sleep on the floor. It took me a decade of burning skin and blowing joints to get there. And when the dealer in Williston finally handed me that title, I just stared at it. My name. My signature. Not a single cosigner. For once, something that was mine. 3 weeks later, I was still crashing in a man-camp trailer, between hitches, when the knock came. Thought it was just a roommate's girl or someone lost. Nope. It was a deputy with papers. Ronald and Diane Hale versus Mason Hale. I read it twice before I could even react. They were suing me. My own parents. Demanding I hand the home over to my younger brother Brent. Claimed he needed stable housing to stay clean. Said I owed it to him. I sat there on the cot, LED light buzzing above me, propane heater rattling like it was coughing to death, and just stared at that complaint. I didn't get angry. I got cold. Flat line. The kind of calm where you know something and you just snapped and isn't coming back. Brent's 27. Hasn't worked a straight job for more than 6 months in the last 5 years. Been in and out of detox, halfway houses, our folks' basement. They've always made excuses. He's got a good heart, Mom says. He just needs a little help. I've been hearing that since we were kids. I was always the fixer. When Brent stole my PlayStation and pawned it, I got grounded for leaving it out. When he totaled Dad's truck joyriding at 16, I got asked to work extra shifts at the feed store to help cover the deductible. They never saw it. Or maybe they didn't want to. Brent was the golden boy, even when he was high. But this? Taking me to court for the only thing I've ever had that wasn't handed down, loaned, or earned on someone else's terms. That was a new low. The complaint said there was a long-standing understanding in the family that any big asset I got would be for Brent too. That because I'd benefited from family support. The home belonged to the unit. Unjust enrichment, emotional distress, blah blah blah. My dad even had the gall to include a paragraph about how he taught me responsibility and discipline. My mom wrote that she believed with her whole heart I'd intended the house for Brent. I stared at their signatures. My dad's blocky ex-military script, the same one that used to sign detention slips and job applications for me back in Greeley. My mom's looping cursive, dainty and dramatic, like she was signing a birthday card to Jesus. That night I didn't sleep. Just lay on the cot listening to the heater cycle on and off, the wind scraping the trailer walls like it was trying to get in. It was the first time I ever admitted it to myself. They never loved me the way they loved him. I hired a lawyer named Veronica Eastman, out of Bismarck. 40-something, tough as a rusted fence post, voice like she'd smoked through the 90s and never quit. When I slid the court filing across her desk, she didn't even blink. Just read the first page, snorted, and said, "Your brother sounds like a damn parasite." She didn't ask for a backstory. She asked for pay stubs, title documents, and a record of every wire transfer I'd ever sent my parents. I gave her a flash drive full of spreadsheets. 10 years of earnings. Gross nearly $950,000 bouncing from rig to rig, frozen drill pads to desert pipelines. Saved every penny I could, lived out of duffels and metal bunks, ate gas station sandwiches, and skipped vacations. My hands looked 20 years older than my face. I showed her those too. Veronica leaned back and said, "Good. Let him try. We'll bury this." I told her straight. "This isn't about the trailer." "Not really." She nodded once, like she already knew. "It never is." When I called my folks after that, it wasn't to plead or explain. It was to warn. My voice was steady as steel. "You go through with this, we don't come back from it." Mom started crying. Right on cue. "You're being cruel. You don't understand how fragile Brent is. He's been through so much." Dad took the phone. "You're acting like a child. That home isn't a trophy, Mason. It's an opportunity, for your brother. You can weld. You'll always land on your feet." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You think this was easy? You think I landed somewhere? I crawled here." I hung up before he could bark back. The discovery phase kicked off ugly. Their lawyers subpoenaed everything: my accounts, tax filings, old emails, even texts. They were hunting for anything they could twist into a promise. Anything that said I ever offered that home to Brent. There was nothing. I'd been careful. I'd learned a long time ago that even hope was a liability in my family. Still, they tried. Mom pulled out an old birthday card from 6 years back where I wrote, "Whatever you need, I'm here." They entered it as evidence. Said it proved I had intended to support Brent's recovery long term. Brent showed up at his deposition in a hoodie I'd given him 2 winters ago. He played the part. Voice shaking. Said I'd always told him he could count on me. That I'd promised, his word promised, to help him get on his feet when the time was right. Said he was finally sober now, and having a place to live would be the difference between life and death. He said it like I was holding a loaded gun by not handing over the keys. Veronica leaned over and whispered, "He deserves an Oscar. Maybe 2. I didn't testify that day. I just watched. Watched the kid who used to steal my tips from the diner job cry in front of a court reporter like he'd never done a thing wrong in his life. And the worst part? I wasn't shocked. Because I knew the script. Mom had written it. Dad had directed. Brent was just playing his part. The turning point came 3 weeks before the trial, when Veronica found a video Brent had posted to Snapchat. It wasn't public, but one of the guys I used to work hitches with had screenshotted it and forwarded it to me with a, "Dude, is this your brother?" It was Brent, shirtless in someone's backyard in Greeley, holding a solo cup, music blaring. The caption said, "Celebrating the new digs. Shout out to Big Bro for financing the clean life." There was a giant inflatable flamingo in the pool behind him and a girl in his lap laughing so hard she nearly fell in. Veronica stared at the video, eyes deadpan. So much for fragile sobriety. We filed a motion to amend our countersuit. Defamation, emotional distress, and malicious prosecution. Veronica told me, "We're not just playing defense anymore. You're not the victim here, you're the one being defrauded." Meanwhile, the damage Brent had done to the trailer kept adding up. When I'd parked it temporarily at a lease lot in Dickinson, he'd showed up twice. The first time, tried the locks. Second time, he spray-painted, "Give it up," across the siding in orange. $4,200 in clean-up and repainting. I had it all on Ring camera footage. Clear as day. Him laughing. When the footage played in pre-trial, my mom gasped like she was watching someone beat a puppy. Dad didn't flinch. Just muttered, "Boys fight." You shouldn't have provoked him. Provoked him. I was done. I walked out of that courthouse and drove straight to the trailer. Stood inside that tiny kitchen, the one with the quartz counters I picked out myself. Lit a cigarette I hadn't touched in years and stood at the window while snow flurried down across the gravel. I started thinking back to being 14, sleeping in the garage so Brent could have the bigger room. For his mental health. To the time I'd missed a school trip to replace the tires he'd shredded doing donuts in Dad's truck. To the night I sat with him in an ER after he OD'd while Mom cried in the parking lot and Dad paced like he was about to lose a promotion. And I realized something. They'd never asked what it cost me. Not once. Every time I'd showed up, wired money, let something go, it was like they thought I was some bottomless damn well. The responsible one. The reliable one. The one who'd always show up. But I was dry. Bone dry. And this home, this stupid prefab double wide in North Dakota? It wasn't a luxury. It wasn't a symbol. It was my line in the sand. I walked outside and bolted the new lock. Let the wind howl. Let the past try to find a crack. I was done leaking. From now on, they'd find a wall. Trial week arrived colder than hell and twice as ugly. Bismarck was frozen over, the courthouse steps slick with packed snow, reporters waiting because the local paper had picked up the case. Parents sue son over mobile home and heated family dispute. My phone buzzed with messages from guys I hadn't heard from in years. Some thought it was funny. Others asked if it was true. One just sent a thumbs up and, "Make him eat gravel, bro." Inside the courtroom, it felt like being back in Dad's house, rigid, cold, everyone pretending there was order while the real rot festered just beneath the surface. They started with opening statements. Their lawyer, slick guy from Denver, big on theatrics, told the jury this was about family promises and broken trust. Used words like abandonment and moral duty. He even called Brent a young man fighting valiantly to stay sober. I nearly laughed. Veronica didn't. She just smiled like a rattlesnake and waited her turn. When it was our time, she stepped up smooth. No notes, no slideshow. This case is not about family. It's about theft. A group of adults decided they were entitled to what they did not earn. And when they couldn't guilt my client into handing it over, they tried to take it by force of law. We are not here to negotiate guilt trips. We are here to defend property rights. Mom was first to testify. She wore a soft pink sweater, crucifix necklace, and that same wounded look she always pulled out when trying to wrangle sympathy. Her voice trembled as she talked about Brent's struggles. His sensitive nature. The time he cried after a failed job interview. She said, "We just knew Mason wouldn't let his brother fall. He promised us. He said we were a family." Veronica stood, hands folded. "Did he ever put that in writing?" "No. But we knew. You believed he owed it?" Mom dabbed her eye. "Don't children owe their parents something?" I almost stood up right there. Then came Dad. Still upright like he was standing inspection. Said that I wouldn't be the man I am without his influence. That he taught me discipline, values, and how to be a provider. Claimed he helped fund my tools and early gear. Veronica calmly pulled out receipts. Every welding rig, torch, grinder, bought on my personal credit card. "Did you pay for these?" she asked. "No," he said. "But that's not the point." She smiled. "Oh, I think it is." Brent went last. His hoodie swapped for a button-down he clearly borrowed. Hair combed. Clean-shaven. Voice soft. "I never meant to hurt Mason. I thought we were family. I thought he'd be there." Then, he played the card he'd saved. "He told me once, if I got serious about recovery, he'd help me. I believed him." He looked at me, eyes glassy. "I believed in you, man." For a moment, the jury leaned in. The courtroom went quiet. He had them. Until Veronica stood. "Can you explain this video?" She hit play on the Snapchat clip. Brent partying. Flamingo pool float. Cash flying. Silence. Brent fumbled. "That was a mistake. I slipped." "And this?" A TikTok, him in Vegas 2 months prior. "Clean life hits different." The caption read. Brent started sweating. Veronica turned to the judge. "No further questions." And just like that, the story changed. The mood in the courtroom shifted like someone opened a window in the dead of winter. No more soft glances toward Brent. No more pity in the jury box. Even the judge started tapping his pen like he'd heard enough. Veronica leaned toward me at the table, whispered, "They just lost the room." When it was my turn to testify, I didn't put on a show. I didn't cry. I didn't beg for understanding. I just told the truth. I left home at 19 with $300 in a duffel bag. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a backup plan. I welded in the Dakotas through winters so cold, your eyelashes froze together. I missed holidays, funerals, birthdays. I worked 100-hour weeks, sometimes with busted ribs. I didn't do it for fun. I did it to build something of my own. Veronica handed me a thick stack of pay stubs. "Please tell the court what this represents." 10 years of my life. Over $900,000 in labor. We showed the bank records. The title. The signed loan. Every receipt. All in my name. No cosigners. No deposits from family. Nothing Brent ever contributed. Then Veronica dropped the hammer. "Let's talk about the damage," she said. We showed the photos of the spray paint. The late-night ring footage of Brent trying to lock doors. The $4,200 repair bill. The local PD report I'd filed. Then the text Brent sent me a day later. "You can't keep it all to yourself forever. I deserve something too." I looked the jury dead in the eye and said, "They raised me to believe that if I just worked hard enough, kept quiet, didn't cause problems, they'd see me. Maybe even love me like they love Brent. But it was never about what I did. It was about what I gave. And the moment I stopped giving, I became the enemy." My voice cracked then, just once. "I'm not mad anymore. I'm done begging to be their son. But I will not be robbed. Not by blood. Not by guilt. Not by this manipulative sob story they've been selling since I was old enough to mop a floor." Veronica let it hang there. Long enough for the jury to sit with it. Then she nodded. No further questions. On the way out of the courtroom that day, Dad stared straight ahead. Not at me. At the exit sign. Jaw clenched so tight the veins in his temple bulged. Mom dabbed her eyes and walked like she was being led to a funeral. Brent? He looked at me. Same old smirk. This ain't over. And right then, I understood exactly who he was. Not broken. Not fragile. Entitled. A man who'd been carried so long he forgot what walking felt like, and resented anyone who stood on their own 2 feet. By Thursday, the courtroom felt more like a morgue. Cold. Silent. Everyone just waiting for the body to drop. Veronica filed a motion that morning to recover our attorney's fees. Over 20 grand. She didn't even blink when she said it. If they want to weaponize the courts to carry out a family shakedown, they can pay for the bullets. Their lawyer tried to push a settlement, said we could avoid fees if I just agreed to shared use of the home for 1 year. I asked him, shared like Brent staying on the couch, or shared like I hand over the keys and live in a motel? He blinked. I stood up, shook my head. Yeah. That's what I thought. By then, even the court clerk wouldn't make eye contact with Brent. During a break, I caught him scrolling on his phone in the hallway, still wearing those designer sneakers he didn't buy. He looked up, and for the first time, there was no smirk. Just exhaustion. It almost got me. Almost. But then I remembered sleeping in our cold garage at 14 so he could have the bigger room because Brent's sensitive to noise. I remembered wiring him $5,000 for rehab 2 years back and never getting a thank you. I remembered coming home for Thanksgiving and finding him passed out on my old mattress while Mom made me sleep on the couch. To keep the peace. Nope. Not anymore. The final day, Veronica called the last witness, Uncle Joe. My mom's older brother. Retired Air Force. He walked in with a folder under his arm, slow but sharp-eyed. Told the court he'd been loaning Mom and Dad small amounts for years to cover Brent's emergencies. One time for a wreck. Another for bail. And yet another. Because he was threatening to sleep in the park. He looked straight at them from the stand and said, I love my sister. But they raised one son with guilt and the other with a leash made of excuses. And now they're surprised the leash snapped. Their lawyer objected. Judge overruled. Veronica asked him one question. Have you ever known Mason to ask your family for anything? Uncle Joe shook his head. Not one dime. That was the nail. The judge didn't take long. He recessed for 40 minutes. When he came back, it was like someone dropped a hammer on the bench. His voice calm but cold. This court finds no basis for the claims of implied agreement or unjust enrichment. The property in question belongs solely to Mr. Mason Hale. The plaintiff's case is not only dismissed with prejudice, it is referred for review by the district attorney for possible perjury and fraud. Then he paused. Turned to my parents. I suggest you seek counseling. Not legal advice. To Brent? He just shook his head. Housing is not recovery. Consequences are. Then he stood up and left the bench. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one left standing in shame. They were. The hallway outside the courtroom was dead quiet except for the hum of vending machines and the faint sound of Brent pacing in his 2 clean sneakers. I walked right past him. Dad grabbed my arm. Hard. Like he used to when I was a kid, and he caught me coming in 5 minutes past curfew. You happy now? His voice was tight, gravelly. You just humiliated your mother. In public. I yanked my arm free. No, Dad. You did that. When you tried to steal from me and called it love. Mom was crying, of course. Shoulders shaking, eyes red, but I noticed something different this time. She didn't reach for me. Just clutched that little gold cross she always wore, like maybe it'd do the explaining for her. How could you do this to your brother? She whispered, voice all cracked glass and wounded performance. After everything we sacrificed? I laughed once, just once, and it came out bitter. You didn't sacrifice. You surrendered. Every time Brent messed up, you laid one more piece of yourselves on the altar and called it parenting. You didn't raise him. You enabled him. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Brent stepped forward, jaw clenched, eyes glassy. This isn't over. You think some judge can change what's mine? I turned, squared up, and for the first time in my life, looked him in the eye without flinching. It's not yours, Brent. It never was. And if you so much as step foot on my lot again, I'll file trespassing charges so fast your head will spin. He scoffed, tried to laugh it off. But there was something shaky behind it. He'd lost his audience. His stage. His enablers. What was left was just a man with nothing but excuses. Veronica walked up, handed me the final judgment papers. They'll need to cut a check for legal fees in 30 days. They probably won't. But that's between them and collections now. I nodded. What happens if they don't? We garnish wages, she said flatly. Or in their case, whatever retirement trickles in. A silence passed between us. I'm not doing this to punish them, I said quietly. You're doing it, she interrupted. Because if you don't set boundaries, they'll take until there's nothing left. And they've taken enough. That night, back at the trailer, the guys from the local came by. We parked rigs in a wide circle, lit up the fire pit, and grilled until the propane ran out. Someone brought ribs. Someone else brought a bottle of bourbon that tasted like fire and forgiveness. We sat out under the stars, laughing, yelling over old job site stories, boots kicked up, music playing from someone's truck. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was home. Not a house. Not a building. But a place where I didn't have to keep my guard up. Where nobody asked me to bleed so someone else could feel warm. Late into the night, someone raised a can and toasted. To Mason Hale, they said. The guy who finally said no. 6 months later, I was parked outside a rig yard in Montana, my trailer hitched up and muddy from a week of sleet. The fireplace inside still worked like a charm, though. I'd fixed the broken window myself, replaced the skirting after another hailstorm, and learned how to patch the roof in a crosswind. It was battered now, lived in. Smelled like pine cleaner and burnt coffee. And it was mine. Every scar on that home told a story. None of them were about Brent. Then my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it ring out. Minutes later, a voicemail popped up. It was Dad. Mason. It's your father. Your brother's back in county. DUI in your mother's car. She's shaken up. We're trying to find a way to help him get back on track. Could use something stable. I deleted it before he finished. A few hours later, a text came in from Mom. Bible verse. Crying emoji. Tyler misses you. Forgiveness heals the soul. She still got the name wrong sometimes when she was upset. Used Brent's middle name like it would soften the blow. I didn't reply. Just thumbed the thread into the archive like I'd done a dozen times before. Because here's the truth, they weren't trying to reconnect. They were testing the door. Seeing if it would still open. If the old guild still worked. It didn't. That door wasn't locked anymore. It was sealed. See, I've learned something out here on these frozen roads, with my life hooked behind a fifth wheel and a world of space between me and where I started. Family isn't blood. It's not obligation. It's not sacrifice you don't recover from. Family's who shows up when there's nothing to take. And mine? Mine are the guys who helped me install that home on a snowy Sunday. The ones who shared their beers, not their burdens. The ones who toasted me, not because I gave them anything, but because I finally stood my ground. These days I sit on the steps outside that trailer, alone sometimes, boots up, stars above, and think about that kid who used to sleep in the garage. I don't mourn him anymore. I honor him. He survived them. He became me. A few weeks later, I stopped at a diner outside of Glendive, hands still dirty from welding, denim stiff with dust. I slid into a booth near the back and was halfway through a plate of eggs when I heard someone say my name. Mason? I looked up. It was Brent. Thinner. Pale. Dressed in a frayed hoodie and jeans that hadn't seen a washer in months. No smirk this time. Just tired eyes and hands that trembled when he pulled out the chair across from me without asking. I'm not here to start anything, he said fast, like he knew I wouldn't believe him. I just saw your truck. Needed to talk. I stared at him. Said nothing. He looked around, lowered his voice. I'm in a bad place, man. I gave him a slow nod. Yeah. That tends to happen when you spend your life torching every bridge you've been handed. He winced. Look, I know I screwed up. Court, everything. I was high through most of it. I thought I could game the system. I thought I could game you. Finally. The first honest sentence I'd heard from him in years. He looked up, and his voice cracked. I can't stay with Mom and Dad. They don't know what to do with me unless I'm either clean or dead. I don't need a place to crash. I just need to know, do you hate me? I took a sip of coffee. No. I don't hate you. His shoulders sagged in relief. For a second, I saw the little brother I used to carry on my shoulders through the snow, back before the lies, the pills, the manipulation. But I don't trust you either, I said. And I won't pretend we're something we're not just because you finally hit a wall. I spent 30 years cleaning up after you. That's done. He nodded. Looked like he might cry. I get it. I really do. I hope so. We sat in silence for a while. Then I dropped 100 on the table, more than enough for both our meals, and slid out of the booth. Take care of yourself, Brent. He didn't say anything as I walked out. Didn't follow. Didn't beg. Just sat there in that booth, blinking fast, like maybe for the first time in his life, he finally felt the weight of the world that I'd been carrying all along. Out in the truck, I sat behind the wheel and exhaled deep. Didn't feel victorious. Didn't feel bitter. Just free. And that was enough. I took a hitch down in Wyoming that spring, remote compressor station out near Casper, just me, 2 other welders, and more antelope than cell bars. I parked the trailer on leased dirt behind a truck stop with nothing but prairie wind and the buzz of power lines overhead. Every night I'd fire up that little electric fireplace, cook up eggs and beans, and sit at the tiny table with a beer and the silence. Nobody asking for favors. No texts asking for wire transfers. Just peace. One morning, I stepped out onto the metal steps in my boots and saw something wedged under the wiper blade of the truck. A card. No envelope. Just a folded piece of lined paper. I opened it. I'm 5 weeks sober. I'm in a church group now. I don't expect anything. Just wanted you to know. No begging. No guilt. No lies. I stared at it for a long time. Then folded it once, slid it into the glove box, and started the engine. Did I believe him? Honestly, I didn't know. But for once, he hadn't asked for anything. The road's been quiet since then. The trailer's got a few more dings. Window crank busted in a windstorm. One of the cabinet doors inside hangs crooked no matter how many times I fix the damn hinge. But I don't mind. It's my home. Not because it's pretty, or perfect, or paid off. Because it was the first thing in my life I didn't have to apologize for wanting. And now when I think about family, I don't picture last names or blood types. I picture choices. Respect. Boundaries. The people who let you be. And I finally learned something no one ever taught me back in that split-level ranch in Greeley. You don't owe the people who broke you a damn thing just because they gave you your name. Early July, I hauled the trailer down to Utah for a short-term refinery job in the desert. Hotter than hell, no shade, just sun bouncing off metal and dust curling off your boots before noon. But the site paid double-time weekends, and the hookup lot had a killer view of red rock cliffs that turned gold at sunset. One night after shift, I climbed up on the roof of the trailer with a beer in hand, duct tape patching a cracked vent cover under me, sweat drying into salt across my shoulders, and looked out over miles of empty scrubland. No noise. No expectations. Just the hum of wind through sagebrush and the creak of the trailer cooling down for the night. That's when the old thoughts started poking up again. Not anger. Not the courtroom. Just memories. Like the time I got a perfect score on my welding certs at 18 and no one showed up to the ceremony. I rode my bike home with the certificate rolled up in my back pocket, and Brent's name being screamed from the living room because he'd lost another game of Madden. Or the time I came home with frostbite on 2 fingers after a blizzard shift, and Mom told me I was being dramatic while microwaving Brent's pizza rolls. That kid, me, he used to think if he just kept proving himself, they'd notice. One day he'd come home and they'd say, "We're proud. You matter. Not just you're useful." But sitting on the roof of the trailer that night, I finally understood something. I don't want their praise anymore. I don't need a rewrite of the past. I've built something real. With scarred hands, cold nights, lonely roads, and a spine they tried to bend until it broke. I've got men I trust, work I believe in, and a home that smells like sweat and diesel and freedom. And that's enough. No more proving. No more performing. Just living. Last week, I met someone. Didn't plan to. Wasn't looking. Just happened in a gas station off Route 191 near Moab. I was grabbing jerky and a Gatorade. She was arguing with the register about a mispriced pack of batteries. Quick wit, sunburned cheeks, boots that had seen as many miles as mine. Her name's Erin. Drives a service truck, does mobile welding and emergency fixes for mining outfits out in the basin. We talked shop in the parking lot. Swapped stories about busted rig lines, bad bosses, and the worst gas station burritos west of the Mississippi. She asked where I was parked. I pointed to my trailer. That yours? She asked. I nodded. She gave this low whistle. That's not a rig crash pad. That's a home. It caught me off guard. I guess I'd forgotten how good it feels when someone sees you, without needing you to bleed for it. We've been grabbing dinner here and there since. Nothing serious. Just easy. Real. She doesn't ask about Brent or courtrooms or any of that mess. She just tells me about torque specs and her dog that chews through steel toe boots. And every time I walk her to her truck, she says the same thing with a grin. Keep that place locked up. It's too nice for freeloaders. I laugh every time. But there's a part of me that knows what she means. Because now, finally, I do too. Some doors stay locked for a reason. Some homes are earned, not shared. And some peace only shows up after the fire's already burned through everything false. A few nights ago, Brent called again. I didn't recognize the number. He's burned through so many, but something made me answer. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was that voice in me that still wants to believe people can change, even if I've got the scar tissue to prove otherwise. His voice was quieter this time. Slower. Sober, maybe? Or just exhausted. Hey, he said. I'm not asking for anything. I swear. I waited. He sighed. I got a job. Just warehouse work. Night shifts. But I'm keeping it. Been clean 74 days. I said nothing. Just listened. I know I messed everything up. I know I can undo it. But I wanted to say thanks. Not for the money. For walking away. That caught me off guard. He kept talking. If you hadn't cut me off, I think I'd still be waiting for someone to fix it all for me. You were the first person who told me no and meant it. And it sucked. But I needed it. Another pause. Anyway, I'm not asking you to forget. Or forgive. I just wanted you to know. I see it now. What you were carrying. I didn't say much. Told him I hoped he meant it. That I hoped he kept going. That I wasn't coming back, but I wished him well. He said, that's more than I deserve. And maybe it was. After I hung up, I didn't cry. Didn't feel vindicated. Just calm. I stepped outside, sat on the steps of the trailer, and looked out across the empty Utah plain. The wind was cool. The stars sharp and endless. My boots rested on solid ground, my own dirt. My name on the deed. My fingerprints in every corner of this place. And for the first time in my life, I realized something. Peace isn't loud. It's quiet. Like forgiveness you don't speak. Like a trailer door locked behind you that no one has the right to knock on again. The trailer's been with me through 4 states now. It's seen wind shear, hail dents, busted water lines, and one raccoon that nearly gave me a heart attack in the crawl space. But every time I hitch it to the rig and haul it someplace new, it feels like I'm dragging a little fortress behind me. Not just shelter. Proof. Proof that I survived the kind of family that confuses loyalty with control. Proof that I carved something real out of 10 years of steel, silence, and frostbitten mornings. A few weeks back, I was working a job in Idaho, quick contract near Pocatello, when I got to talking with a kid just starting out. 19. Still green. Boots too clean, hands too soft. Said he didn't know if he was cut out for this life. Missed home. Missed how things used to be. I asked what he meant. He shrugged. I guess I thought if I worked hard enough, people back home would finally take me serious. Like see me, you know? I just looked at him. Saw myself. 15 years ago. Sleeping in the cold, holding my breath around people who only saw what I could give. So I said something I wish someone had told me back then. They probably won't. Not the way you want. Not in the time you need. But that doesn't mean you stop building. You don't work for them. You work for you. For what's yours. For the day you can sit on a busted lawn chair outside a trailer you bought with your own hands and not owe a damn soul a damn thing. He stared for a second. Then just said, damn. I clapped him on the shoulder. You'll get there. He asked where I lived. I pointed to the lot down the road, to the trailer catching the evening light like it was plated in copper. That's yours? He asked. All of it, I said. Every square foot. And for the first time, I felt pride that wasn't tied to proving anything. It just was. Last night, I got home from a 10-hour shift, knees shot, arms coated in dust, shirt soaked through, and found a note stuck in my screen door. It was from Aaron. Swung by with leftover brisket. You weren't home. Figured the guy with the toughest trailer in 4 states probably earned a hot meal. Inside the foil-wrapped container was enough food for 2. She'd even thrown in cornbread. I stood there barefoot in the little kitchenette, fridge humming, trailer creaking gently in the breeze, and for a second, just one, I let myself lean against the counter and smile. Not because someone fed me. Not because someone saw me. But because there was finally space in my life for something besides defense. See, when you grow up in a family where love is a weapon, where praise is conditional and affection's always tied to guilt, you learn to guard everything. Time. Money. Your name. Your future. You build a life like it's a bunker. But lately, I've started to see the cracks. Not the kind that let trouble in. The kind that let light through. I still keep the trailer locked. Still check the cameras. Still sleep light some nights when the wind shifts and I think I hear footsteps that aren't there. But it's fading. Slowly. And sometimes, like tonight, I'll sit at the fold-out table, feet up, brisket on a paper plate, and I'll think. This is what it means to have enough. Not riches. Not revenge. Not the final word. Just peace. Earned. Protected. Mine. The other day, I took the long way back from town. Gravel roads, music low, windows cracked just enough to catch the scent of summer dust and diesel. No timeline. No calls to return. Just the hum of the engine and the kind of silence that doesn't ache anymore. I passed an old barn off Highway 33, half collapsed, sun-leached to hell, barely standing. But someone had painted a sign across the side in red letters. What you protect is what you become. I pulled over. Sat there a while staring at it. Because damn if that wasn't the truth I'd been stumbling toward for years without knowing it. What you protect is what you become. I used to think I was just surviving, working, grinding, sacrificing. But the truth is, I was guarding something. A version of myself I hadn't met yet. The man who doesn't flinch when his family guilts him. The man who owns his own time, his own name, his own peace. I'd become him. Not all at once. Not cleanly. But piece by piece, with every no I said that used to feel like betrayal and now feels like breathing. Brent's still out there. I don't track him. Haven't blocked him either. Last I heard he'd kept the warehouse job. That was months ago. No text since. No updates. Just silence. And I leave it that way. Mom sent a card last week. No return address. Just a short note. I hope you're well. I think about you every day. I'm sorry. I don't know if that helps. But I am. I didn't write back. Not out of spite. Just peace. Some things get answered by not answering. That night, I parked the truck, walked up the trailer steps, and paused at the door. Ran a hand over the dent Brent left in the siding. Never did repaint it. I think I'll leave it. Not as a wound, but a marker. A reminder of what was threatened. And what stood. Got a call last weekend from Uncle Joe, the only one who never played favorites, never bought into the drama. Said he was driving through Wyoming with his fifth wheel and wondered if I had room to park up for a night or two. I said hell yes. He pulled in that Friday evening, dust trailing behind his truck like a flag. Parked beside mine, climbed down slow, knees crackling, same beat-up ball cap he's worn since I was 12. We grilled burgers outside on my propane rig, sitting on camp chairs, watching the sun bleed out behind the ridgeline. After the second beer, he looked at me and said, "You know, your granddad would have been proud as hell of you." I almost choked. "Come on, Joe." He barely knew me. "Exactly," he said. "And you turned out better than all of us." We sat quiet for a bit after that. Just the crackle of grease on the grill and the wind rustling through the weeds. Then he asked the question I'd been avoiding for months. "You ever think about going back?" I knew what he meant. Greeley. The house. Mom. All of it. I shook my head. "Going back to what?" He nodded like he expected that. "Just checking." Later that night, after he turned in, I sat out front of the trailer, boots kicked up, stars pinning down the sky, and thought about it. There's no satisfaction in revenge. There's no redemption in being right. But there is power in staying gone. In choosing your own map, your own rules, your own quiet life where nobody gets to rewrite your worth. I live light now. Just what fits in the trailer and the bed of my truck. And it's enough. It's more than enough. Because what I've got now, no one can sue, sob, or guilt their way into. And what I've built. It's strong. It's scarred. But it's mine. 2 days ago, I got offered a foreman spot. Company out of Casper. Said they'd been watching my work for months, liked how I ran teams without drama, kept welds clean, and always delivered ahead of schedule. Said the crew respected me, even the old-timers. It came with a raise. A real one. Company truck. Per diem. Health. All of it. 10 years ago, I would have jumped without thinking. Would have called home, told Dad I finally made it. Waited for him to say he was proud, even if it came with that stiff, reluctant grunt. Now? I just nodded, thanked them, and said I'd think about it. That night, I walked the perimeter of my trailer. Ran a hand along the aluminum siding, still warm from the sun. Looked at the scars, the patches, the places I fixed with my own 2 hands. The idea of being tied down somewhere again, inside someone else's structure, someone else's chain of command, itched at me. Freedom had taken root in me deeper than I thought. I called Erin. Told her about the offer. She listened without interrupting. Then said, "Would it make you happy?" Not richer. Not more impressive. Not safe. Happy. I sat with that for a long time. "I think I'm already there," I said. And I meant it. She just laughed. "Well then, there's your answer. I used to believe stability was the goal. House, job, family, approval. All of it. But turns out, peace doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it wears steel toes and diesel-smudged hands and lives in a trailer off a gravel road with no one asking you to shrink so someone else can shine. I'm not chasing anyone anymore. Not love. Not validation. Not even closure. I'm just here. And for the first time in my life, that's enough." Last night, I stood barefoot in the trailer's doorway, screen open, watching a summer storm roll across the plains. Thunder low, distant. Lightning flashing over the ridgeline like the sky was welding itself back together. Behind me, the place smelled like pine cleaner and grease. A skillet still warm from dinner. My boots by the door. Coffee mug half full on the table. Erin's jacket draped over the back of the chair from the night before. She'd started leaving little things here. No speeches. No promises. Just presence. I used to think permanence came from square footage. Mortgages. Deeds. A family that clapped when you showed up with something worth bragging about. But permanence, I've learned, can live inside a single moment. Like this one. A trailer you bought with burned knuckles. A land you parked on because no one else told you where to go. A wind you don't brace against anymore because you belong in it now. People ask me if I miss my family. If I'll ever go back. If I've forgiven. The truth? I don't need to go back. I was back. I stood in court, looked them dead in the eye, and said, "No." Said enough? That was closure. And forgiveness? It's not a door you open. It's a gate you close without slamming. I don't hate them. I just refuse to keep bleeding to keep them warm. This home has taken a beating. But so have I. We're still standing. Maybe that's all the happy ending you get sometimes. Not applause. Not reconciliation. Just a man, a quiet night, and a storm that doesn't scare him anymore. My name's Mason Hale. I'm 31 years old. Debt light, steel tired, and finally free. And this time, nobody's taking the keys.